Good afternoon. I'll ask how everyone's doing this afternoon. And if you're on the other end of the screen, just answer back. It feels better. It feels better like we're all together. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this afternoon session. I am delighted to serve as your host. My name is Devry Boughner Vorwerk. And I come by this honestly, to tell you the truth. I am a past board member of the Alliance to End Hunger. I served on the board. I had the honor of serving on the board for about 7 years. And today's session is about companies and corporations and how they have been addressing the critical needs in our communities, not only as it relates to addressing hunger over time, but as we are all aware, addressing hunger in this critical time. And I'm thrilled to be joined by 4 incredibly knowledgeable women. Yay, power to the women. Thank you. It's an all-female panel and nobody's going to say anything about it because that's the way it goes. But I'm really excited to be joined today by these 4 women business leaders. And I want to back up and just share briefly, because I told them all before we got on. Because I served on the board for many years. I just want to let you all in on a little secret, because the Alliance to End Hunger, when I was back working for a food company, when I discovered the Alliance, it was my aha moment of how we could come together across companies, across civil society, across faiths, interfaith, to work together to address ending hunger. And it was the first time that I realized that it wasn't just about lobbying for things that mattered about the health of the company, but it was also about, wait a second, let's back up. What are we doing to lobby to end hunger? And are we actually putting our effort behind that? Are we putting our PAC dollars behind that? Are we elevating it to the senior levels and to the conscience of the company's leaders? And so there is so much power in this alliance, and there is so much power in this room this afternoon. And what I'm excited to do is first introduce you to these corporate business women who we're going to walk through and have a conversation about the state of hunger in the communities, how the companies are dealing with it, or from the foundation side, Roxanne, who's of course tied to a company. And then we're going to open it up to questions, and we're going to have a very real conversation around how do we use this moment? How do we use this moment to think about not only the possibilities, but to act on the possibilities to end hunger? So we've got Bettina Stix, who's director of Right Now Needs and disaster relief at Amazon. So Right Now Needs. So say hello, Bettina. It's nice to see you. Bettina's joining us from Seattle. Wonderful to have you. Stephanie Lomibao-Parra. I said that right. Okay.
So Devry, you did it perfect.
Thank you, because I've got one of those names too. From Bank of America in Ventura, California. You're sitting with us from Ventura. It's nice to see you. I mentioned to Stephanie ahead of time, and also to Bettina, it's nice to see not just food companies, but also cross-sectoral participation. And so Stephanie, cheers to you all from the financial services sector coming into the Alliance. Amie Kegler, who is the impact lead from the Global Engagement in Food Recovery at the General Mills Foundation. And Amie's joining us from Minneapolis. Amie, we could meet virtually for a socially distanced coffee. I'm here in Excelsior, Minnesota. And we have Roxanne Moore, who's the executive director of Sodexo Stop Hunger Foundation. And Roxanne is joining us from Bel Air, Maryland. So wonderful to see you all today. I'm going to start with a sort of an open-ended opportunity for each one of you to set the stage for who, not just who you are and how you're playing in the Alliance, but your organization or your company, so that folks kind of get grounded in what you're doing, and then we'll take it from there with the questions. So Bettina, do you want to start?
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on the panel. And I want to also thank everybody that tuned in to actually listen how we companies try to participate in the challenges that the pandemic has caused especially for hunger. We've all seen the food banks and the lines in front of the food banks that started forming in March. People were out of work, and really budget forced a lot of families to find food, not at grocery stores, but in pantries, food banks, and people were scared to leave their houses. Getting food really became an existential question. And since at Amazon, we really care about helping our communities. It became really apparent to us that we should step up in a big way. We've been helping the communities before COVID, in COVID, and increasingly also in the prolonged period of recovery. And what's typical about Amazon is like we're these like problem solvers. We genuinely love problems. And so we teamed up with our community partners, food banks, food pantries, schools, and try to figure out how we can put our best foot forward to helping them. And community delivery was born. It was born out of the necessity to get food from food banks, such as Bread for the City. And I know there's going to be a video that people can click on maybe later, to their clients in lockdown. The food bank basically in a nutshell would prepare and pack the bags, one per family, and then Amazon drivers would come and pick them up and deliver them to the doorsteps of clients that could not get there. All of that free of charge to the food bank for people receiving those goods. We delivered 9 million meals that way across the US and in places around the world. In DC, for Bread for the City, 1 million pounds of food alone, or the equivalent of 865,000 meals that families receive to get that to NFL.
Awesome. Thank you, Bettina. Stephanie.
Sure. Thank you, Devry. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Lomibao-Parra. I'm with the Bank of America Charitable Foundation as a Senior Vice President and Philanthropy Program Manager through our Environmental Social Governance, or ESG team. I'm really so happy to be with all of you today, even though we're virtual. I am so fortunate to have been able to participate in the Hunger Free Communities Conference these past few years. I know how important your work is, and I want to start first and foremost, most importantly, to say thank you to all of you on the line, including the Alliance to End Hunger, for what you do day in and day out to help meet the needs that we see surging for hunger relief and food access. I know you're doing yeoman's work to pivot to this new normal. And through the foundation, while hunger relief has been a center post strategy for our work focused on economic mobility and helping people better their financial lives, we have come to realize through the pandemic that it's more than food that's going to help solve this issue that we see exposed by the pandemic. We know hunger is important, but it's hunger in context of financial insecurity, workforce insecurity, the inability for working families to make ends meet. So again, happy to be with all of you and to have this conversation with such a sage and esteemed panel. Thanks, Devry.
Thank you, Stephanie. Roxanne?
Hi, everybody. I am Roxanne Moore. I'm the Executive Director of the Sodexo Stop Hunger Foundation. I've actually been in this role just about 1 year. So it's been an exciting year, to say the least. I'm not new to Sodexo. I actually have almost 20 years of service with the company, but just in the past year, I've been leading our philanthropic arm. So I'd really love to just make sure that everyone knows a little bit about the history of our foundation, as well as the company themselves as well. So we actually started our Stop Hunger initiative around 1996. And then in 1999, we formed an official foundation called the Sodexo Stop Hunger Foundation. And since its inception, we've always had a focus on ensuring that every child.
Looks like Roxanne may have
in our country.
Okay.
Today, 4 countries where we do business as a company. And apologies. Did I pause?
Yeah, but you're good. You're good.
Okay, I'm good. Okay. Our global mission now with Stop Hunger is also focused on women empowerment, as well as a focus on children. And so traditionally, a lot of the work that the foundation has been focused on and a lot of the volunteer efforts that our employees have done has been focused on food aid. However, we're very interested in making sure that we're expanding in that beyond food aid space. So if we have employees with expertise in financial management, as an example, helping them understand that if you can help teach financial literacy, you could potentially help somebody not be food insecure in the future. So we have a very diverse group of employees. And I think Sodexo, the company, is best known for food service operations. But I wanted to share with everyone that we also do facilities management, concierge services, construction technical services, employee benefits and rewards. So we have about 20 different types of integrated services that are provided by Sodexo. And so today, I will probably be sharing some perspectives from the company side as well as from the foundation side. But putting my foundation hat back on, I just want to finally share with you that the foundation, 100% of all funds that we acquire go right back into the community to help fight food insecurity. And so I'm really excited to be here with all of you today and look forward to engaging in conversation on this topic.
Thank you, Roxanne. And I want to direct all of you who are out there to the video that you can find in the app. One thing, Roxanne, that I really appreciated was you sharing the history of your work as the foundation, because you also then put it in the context of what's been happening in the last 9 months. And what really struck me is the statistics that we've actually gone back to 1999.
That is so true.
Levels. What, I'm sorry?
That's so true. And in fact, if you watch our video, we distinctly say that, we've gone back in time. We were proud last year at our foundation dinner to say that 1 in 7 children, I mean, if you can be proud of that number, but 1 in 7 children were struggling with food insecurity, and now we're back to 1 in 4. So we have a lot of work to do, don't we?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. So please take a look at the video and share that around too, because it's a message that I think, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, it simplifies the issue to a point that people start to understand this is very real. This is very real. So Amie, why don't you give us some opening comments and help us understand who you are, where you are, and what you all are focused on.
Yeah, certainly. I'm Amie Kegler, and I lead food banking and food recovery philanthropy at the General Mills Foundation. And at General Mills, we are committed to making food the world loves, and in this moment, to making food that the world needs. And our commitment to food security and hunger relief is pretty much the DNA of our company. Through our philanthropic partnerships, General Mills is rescuing perfectly good surplus food so that it nourishes those who need it instead of ending up in a landfill. Supporting school meals so that children get the nutrition they need to be ready to learn and thrive, whether in school or through distance learning. And building food secure and equitable communities through grassroots, community-led efforts that tackle local needs through knowledge, sharing, and know-how. And also, we take a very broad approach to addressing food rescue by reducing loss in a number of ways in our own operations, collaborating with others across the industry, empowering food businesses in surplus food recovery, and of course, educating consumers on how they can save food while at home. And we believe food banking is an extremely effective solution that serves as a nexus between sectors to address food security at the community level, while also working to reduce food loss and waste across the entire food industry. So to advance and expand food banking worldwide, which is a large focus of ours, General Mills invests time, food, and philanthropy year-round in leading food bank networks, including Feeding America, the European Food Banks Federation, and the Global Food Banking Network. And with that, thank you for bringing us all here together for this virtual event today. Thanks, Devry.
It's great to be with you, Amie. And living in this community, I know how much General Mills contributes not only to the community, but on a global scale. And it's a long history that dates back to the founding of the company. what I would like to do for all of you that are out there and need to sort of stretch a little, I want to make this a bit interactive. I didn't tell Danielle or Eric or others, but I'm struck by the changing face of the companies that are involved in addressing hunger. And I mentioned that, Stephanie, and I mentioned that, Bettina. It's great to see new actors at the table. Yeah. What I'd love to do is, for all of you who are out there listening, because we're going to have a substantive conversation, I'd love for you to put in the app or where you would chat here in Zoom. You have the opportunity to ask questions, but think about what other companies should be at this table. And think about where you're interacting today in your community, or like in your business relationships, etc., and drop those in the chat. I want to bomb the Zoom chat with what other companies should be at the table. I want us to crowdsource that, because we know they're working on it. And I have long since said that this is not only a food industry play. The food industry is not the only industry that should be addressing this, that we should all be coming together across technology, financial services, manufacturing, etc. So let's just use that time as I delve into questions. Please enter those in the chat, friends. All right, so I'm going to start with an opening question here, because it came up right at the beginning as a question in the chat. I would like us to dig into the sad reality of what's happening, but I want to start with the question around the possibilities. How do you see this moment in time for us, as multi-stakeholder organization focused on ending hunger, and we say ending hunger? How do you see this time as an opportunity? What are the opportunities that we can find in this as companies to truly contribute to ending hunger? And I'm going to open that up for the group. Mm-hmm. And please make this like a coffee chat.
I'd be happy to kick us off, if you don't mind. So I think if there is a silver lining in this pandemic, it is the fact that COVID has opened up our eyes to the social inequities that exist and the systemic reasons why hunger exists in the first place. So what I didn't mention is I'm a dietitian by training. And so my introduction to hunger came through my clinical years of working with inner city patients who, had to find healthy ways to eat off the streets when they were dealing with some very serious illnesses. And then working in the K through 12 space as a leader running the Maryland Summer Food Service Program, and seeing the hunger that existed in my own state that didn't exist, and realizing that there are some really serious systemic issues that need to be addressed. And coming into this role as a leader and executive director of Stop Hunger, my concern was, sustaining an activity where we're only putting a Band-Aid on a problem versus getting to the root causes. So what this experience has done for us internally and externally is opened up more conversations with key stakeholders. It's opened up opportunities for new partnerships and ways to explore how we can work with our universities team more, and organizations that support universities, how we become more strategic in expanding on the food as medicine model. So there's new opportunities because people are understanding the systemic reasons.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want. Oh, go ahead.
Please,
I love it. Go ahead.
So I want to agree with Roxanne. Every crisis, bears opportunities. Let this crisis not go to waste is what we like to say here. On really seeing things that were already visible before, on having the opportunity to highlight and speak to the public more about how systemic hunger affects everybody, every community in the U.S. And I want to add to what Roxanne says about finding really a way to give best to those that are most marginalized, and figure out ways to help them. But my title is Right Now Needs. I also want to make sure that we understand that solving problems over time is definitely something that needs to happen, but we also need to put our best foot forward right away and really dig into some of the issues that can really alleviate people's problems as they happen right now. It's one of the things that we are giving a lot of thought to is also, how can you do this with the same dignity and convenience that we allow our customers, all of us, General Mills, it's, you pivoted to foods in need, or you actually, you want the right foods, the food that people love to people. We offer financial services for people who can afford them. How can we do this for our communities, and use the same principles we use for our customers, and help them, experience similar, just dignity. What do we do to kind of, at Amazon, how do we translate online shopping to customers in need, right? How do we make sure that they don't have to stand in line, they don't have to have opening hours, they don't have to go places? How can we get them to experience the same convenience, and quite frankly, not stand in line and get something that they maybe feel embarrassed about getting because it's the first time they're going to an agency or food bank. Make it a little bit more anonymous for them. So that is something that we are really committed to also.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie, you had something to add.
Yeah, I do. I love what my fellow panelists said. As a financial institution that serves a global footprint, I would say the silver lining is just doubling down on the fact that food insecurity and financial insecurity are inextricably linked. And there are times where even within our company, the question is, why are we so focused on hunger, right? We really increased our funding to hunger relief and food access as a critical safety net back in 2008 and 2009 with the financial crisis. But this pandemic has absolutely made it undeniable. When you see those long lines of cars in Texas waiting to just get a bag of food, it is undeniable that there is something wrong with the economy and that food plays an inextricable, absolutely undeniable role in showing that there is a problem with poverty in the United States, let alone the globe. And so what we've done with our bank leadership is say, there are systemic inequities and it's not a moment, it's a movement. And so the opportunity of our time is having our leaders stand up. Our brand is taking a stand and saying, okay, we know there's systemic equities. We know those that are working in low to moderate incomes don't have savings. And when it comes to disruption in income, the first place they can look is the food bank to get some very necessary everyday sustenance. And I also think, in addition to recognizing this basic necessity and need as part of our economic mobility strategy, it's this inextricable link with race. And so I'm going to bring race and the lens on diversity and inclusion up to the top of this conversation, because we know, based on US data and the work that everyone on the line does, that unfortunately, 1 out of 5 African American and Hispanic households are food insecure. And you can compare it to the 1 out of 10 national rate in the broader United States. So rather than saying there's a problem, how are we going to fix it? I think this is an opportunity for us to come together, whether we're banks or transportation, logistics, food banks or food pantries, to say, okay, we know food is important to be part of the solution, but it can't be the only solution. How are we going to collaborate and create collective impact?
Yeah. You know what I'm hearing in that, Stephanie, is something that we call in our company organizational courage. I'm hearing it come out as you're speaking. And the opportunity that resonates with me is what you said about having that conversation internally at companies. For those who are watching who haven't navigated within companies, it does take courage, because it takes courage to put the issue of hunger, of racism, of inequities at the center of the business discussion, and then wrap the leaders' brains around why it's a business imperative. And so that's what I'm hearing you say, Stephanie. And so that just that is an opportunity as you're navigating your company and organization, but for all businesses to be thinking, and it does take courage. But at the same time, one thing that is also apparent is it's not at the expense of revenue. Companies will not succeed if people can't pay for their products and services. So, Amie, what would you like to say in terms of opportunity here?
Yeah, well, certainly wanted to comment on that. What Stephanie mentioned, that General Mills also recently announced a public call to action to do more to advance racial equity nationwide and in our headquarters community of Minneapolis. And that included a commitment to advance equitable food access through our partnerships with national anti-hunger and social justice organizations. So as we look at our conversations with partners, we're having that always be a thread that we are talking about. Like you said, it takes courage and it takes action, and remembering to do that and have that be a part of all that you're doing is so important.
Yeah.
And I know there's one thing that I wanted to be sure to mention is working with, so we work closely with Feeding America, and one of the things that has really been an impactful way for people to take personal action to help with food insecurity is their Meal Connect platform. And so that, I'm not sure how many on the call have heard of it, but it's a mobile app that makes it free and easy for grocery stores, restaurants, farmers, food businesses to transform and share that surplus food into nourishing meals.
Wow.
And so the reason I want to focus on this or share it is that they've recently gone national with that. So you can literally take out your phone, get the app, and it's an incredibly powerful platform for food recovery. So everyone can use that. And I think that was something that there's a lot of things that we can do in the moment. I think you mentioned different Band-Aid approaches.
Yeah.
But there are some things that have bubbled up as really good solutions that maybe have become more robust or more available during this time because of seeing their value. So
that's amazing. And maybe there's a way we can share it, Sam, as a producer in the chat, so we can capture that for participants. That's a fantastic example. And Amie, I want to mention another that hopefully we can get into the chat that General Mills Foundation is supporting, which is the North Market here in Minneapolis. And the reason I raise that is it's an example where there was one grocery store for 168,000 people in the area, and coming together with companies and civil society and others, you put a new model in place. And around that new model then became the grocery store that was put in. There was, you'll love this, Roxanne, nutrition education, yoga classes, healthcare. And then what you started to see, Amie, with your investment in that community was you started to see a barbershop pop up and a sandwich shop, et cetera. And so there are opportunities in all of this, and it's that kind of mindset that you've just expressed that will get us further down the road here. I want to ask a question from the audience here, and Terrence Meehan, Terry, hello if you're still there, but he's asked for any one of you, how does WIC, the Women and Infant and Children Program, play into the work that you all are doing, or does it?
Again, I'll respond a little bit. We've actually, our focus again has been on children for years. And, you know, I like to say that part of our role here in all of this is to educate, engage, and then empower people with the knowledge so they can go forth, just like all of you have shared different nuggets of information that people may or may not intuitively know. We have to educate people about the needs. And so one of our things, if we think back to the population served by WIC, we're not funding WIC specifically in any way, but we are supporting that same population by trying to talk about things like women empowerment, because we know that, you know, women, if we provide them with the knowledge, the skills, the resources that they need, a higher percentage of their dollar tends to go back to healthcare, nutrition, education, and caring for that family. So that's one reason why that's become a global priority. But then secondly, when I put on my kind of geeky nutrition hat, we know that with nutritional neuroscience, that a lot of the development of children happens in those very, very young years. And they predict the capacity of a child to be productive in education and in their social emotional health as well. So we try at every opportunity to educate people about not just hunger, but the importance of hunger as it relates to a lot of the other issues that we're seeing in our country with mental health and poor academic
Yeah.
performance, etc. But this is our job, all of us. I know it's very intuitive to many of us on this or on the phone today and this meeting. These things we know and we can connect the dots, but this pandemic has given us an opportunity to help people connect the dots logically and to get it.
Yeah.
I totally agree, Roxanne. I was about like earlier when we were talking about organizational courage, right?
Yeah.
What an opportunity to see how things hang together. You know,
Right.
how our marginalized communities are the hardest hit by the pandemic when it comes to, you know, COVID cases and by severity. They're hardest hit by the job market, including the women, Roxanne, that you mentioned, right? We expect a way longer recovery for women from the pandemic. And then if you look into WIC, you know, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the organizations that I think are also members of the Alliance to End Hunger, FRAC and Share Our Strength, and organizations that day in, day out really make sure that those communities know about WIC. What I'd love to kind of find out is more how, you know, in this is definitely a governmental response, and, you know, governments should be responsible to help in those cases. But what I'd like us all to explore is more, how can we help in those cases beyond advocacy, right? How can we help with what we're really intrinsically good at? What are the things that we can put forward, you know, from the financial sector, from the food sector, from an organization like Amazon, who, you know, prides itself to have operational excellence, from somebody who is like nutritionist focused? How can we all come together and make this such a absolute normal part of our day-to-day work, right? Those are great opportunities to pursue together. I don't think we have exhausted all the opportunities yet. I don't think we've maybe asked the right questions to our partners how we can help with that. But WIC has shown that it improves, you know, equity across communities that are hardest hit and needed in long-term and short-term form. So love that program for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Let me turn again. Oh, go ahead, Stephanie. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I
don't
just need to add,
apologize.
when it comes to WIC and other income and benefits assistance, like public assistance, it is so critical to understand that there are families that are food insecure, but that insecurity is multifaceted, right? It's not just food. And so we really do see these public assistance and benefits, WIC, I would put SNAP right in the same category, that will help them find that stability in order to get them towards being better off, being more secure, being independent. And so I just, when it comes to the working together, I love what you had said, and that courageous action that's needed by our organizations. We need to realize that with WIC and with SNAP, with food, these are probably the same people standing or waiting for their unemployment benefits that are struggling because they don't have their stimulus, right? And so I know our company, I know at the local level, my local market teammates across the bank footprint are thinking through ways food is less of a singular siloed issue, but how it's a social determinant of health. Like, how are we using food to connect them to financial well-being, food to connect them to workforce? Food and WIC is the reason why I wanted to speak up, to other access points, so that it's not just WIC, but what else do they qualify for? Utility benefits, rental assistance. I mean, you can go on, but just giving them that one WIC won't help them unless we are able to give them the full array of benefits and opportunities that will help them become financially independent.
Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to add, or should I move on to the next question? Because here, I want to ask a question from go ahead, Bettina.
I want to on to kind of like, because it went a little bit into also the EBT availability for EBT payments. And Stephanie, I encourage you, every food bank and every agency has, or the ones that I talk to, and you probably know this also, they often offer these services. You know, they on a micro level speak to their clients and see what all they can tap into, because that alone, as you say, like financial literacy, and, you know, knowing your rights and what you're entitled to may not be obvious to all the people. But going back, you know, the USDA years ago started a pilot for SNAP Online, and we've been really grateful to kind of be an online partner in the other pilots that they did. And here's another thing what COVID did. Guess what? It moved faster, right? So all the participants in SNAP Online got, you know, it moved a lot faster in getting it to be available together for these clients than it did in the 3 years before. So that is a sign of, you know, how a crisis can really advance. It can really advance, and, you know, to the point of, you know, the parts of America where, you know, you cannot walk to a grocery store because it's more than a mile away.
Yeah.
Online.
Great point.
You know, you guys know I work for a company that believes in online. So that is really So, you know, excited about the opportunities of how we can put all that research development, all of what Amazon does well in, you know, in the hands of people that previously didn't have a chance to explore that.
Well, you know, I'm optimistic because again, I keep going back to this cross-sectoral approach, that companies outside of food companies are beginning to put food at the center of their model, because when you put food at the center of social change, so many other things, you know, evolve. A question that's come from the audience is, what examples can you all give of how you've been supporting your employees as it relates to hunger? But also, Stephanie, you're raising an important point. It's the financial insecurity as well. So what are some best examples that you all can surface around how you're supporting your employees during this time?
Hi, Devry. I can jump in with one. This is Amie. So one of the things that General Mills did pretty early on during the pandemic was launching a paid community service program for employees. So any General Mills employee who was not able to perform the tasks of their job remotely or had extra time was able to sign up for volunteer assignments and help out local nonprofits while receiving regular pay. So it was kind of a way to put those great resources to use to help the community. And that's something that as a company, we're always very proud of our employee commitments to communities. But that was a great example of that partnership.
I love it.
Fantastic.
If I could jump in, so we do have an amazing employee assistance program, particularly for our employees who've been impacted by an unforeseen disaster, including COVID. Our company's been tremendously helpful at helping our employees navigate this new normal we're in from a virtual environment. But it's been a struggle because our employees love giving back. I mean, our average volunteerism every year is over 2 million hours of service. But because of the pandemic, we've asked them to pivot to virtual volunteerism only. It's been hard. It's been really hard because hunger relief has actually been the most beloved volunteer activity by our employees in terms of hours reported. So we are working with our nonprofit partners like Feeding America to try and find these virtual opportunities. But I also think, because we all see what's in the news and we know what's happened with the pandemic and with this call to action around racial equity, that our employees just need a platform to be able to have these honest conversations around what it really is like to work from home, to honest conversations about race relations. And so we call it Let's Get Real. And whether it's at a local level, virtual, of course, or at an enterprise level led by our CEO himself, we've been having these courageous conversations, these Let's Get Real conversations around issues that help us feel like we're not alone in this new normal.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm getting the signal. We have about 3 minutes left. So I want to ask just sort of a bigger question about how companies use their, not only sort of all these good examples you're giving in terms of the power of your platform for good in your communities. But the Alliance, we also come together to change policymakers' minds. And I'm wondering, what are some things that you all can do with your lobbying teams in DC to change the dynamic as it relates to having, programs funded or new ways of addressing what you're talking about, Stephanie, some of the systemic issues, whether it's looking at living wage, et cetera. I mean, your views or your opinion on how you can leverage your functional connectivity between what you all are doing on ESG or on the foundation side, Roxanne, and what your lobbying teams are doing and your corporate PACs do to advance issues in Washington. It sounds like a loaded question, but really it's just sort of an out of the box, like, can we think about this more systemically, not disconnect the lobbying from all of the good efforts that go on in the company? Any thoughts?
I can go first. I think my team works very closely with public policy, and we discuss the needs of the community on a regular basis. We partner a lot on finding, like they are listening to the community, they are listening to the Hill. They talk to representatives all the time, and we talk to the community organizations. And we know that both parts basically want the same, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can ask the questions, do you want hunger to anybody in America? And everybody would probably nod.
That's
the question is, how are we putting our best foot forward for that? Right? How are we actually partnering? And our approach is often, we want to be part of the solution. So I talked about Snap Online just a minute ago. That was one of the things where we definitely want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Another one is, I mentioned community deliveries is something that we do big as a program, really, to put our best foot forward in COVID. We worked with the food banks in California, for example, to distribute the senior boxes. That because all of a sudden that model fell apart.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it did.
Seniors are the ones who cannot go to the food bank anymore. We have, like, a lockdown prohibited them from going there. Right?
Yeah, exactly. My sister runs a senior farmers market, and that got shut down. So yes, so that's exactly
free. So that's what we did, right? Like, we helped San Francisco Food Bank, LA Regional Food Bank. We just said, like, here are our drivers. Let's get those boxes to the seniors. I think being part of the solution and just knowing what these are is really important for us, because we can put that's really something that, we all have these unique mechanisms to help, and putting that forward.
Great. I'm being told we're done, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but I want to say thank you to all of you individually, personally, for your contributions to the Alliance for End Hunger, for your companies. And I want us to think through in solution who else we can bring to the table, because the reality is it's going in the wrong direction, and we actually have the power to change it. There's enough food to feed every citizen in the United States, and by the way, every citizen across the globe. So it's a matter of political will and our ability to innovate and create new solutions. Thanks to the Alliance. Thanks to all of you for attending. Absolutely. And until next time.
Be safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you to all of our speakers. As you navigate to your next session, hop over to Whova in the agenda, and please keep the conversation going in Whova. I know there are a lot of questions in this session that didn't get answered, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to get some more conversations answered in Whova. Thank you all. Thanks to all of our panelists, and enjoy your next session.